Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuhu. Class, today I'm going to answer some questions on the topic of the glorious Quran. So let's begin. The first question is, define the Quran, the definition of the Quran. So the Quran is the uncreated word of Allah. It was revealed to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through Angel Jibreel. So that process is called revelation. Question number 2. Two virtues of the Quran. Number 1, there's the hadith that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, the best among you is he who read the Quran, learn the Quran and teach it to others. And the other virtue is that whosoever recite one letter from the Quran, you have 10 blessings. So Alif is one letter, you have 10 blessings. Ba is another letter, you have 10 blessings. So every letter you read from the Quran, you receive 10 blessings. Question number 3, names of the glorious Quran. Now, many names of the Holy Quran, or the glorious Quran, also defines its objective. For example, the Quran is called Shifa. Ash-Shifa means the cure. So the Quran cure our hearts. So the Quran cure our hearts spiritually. Also, so one of the other names of the Quran is Al-Furqan. And Furqan in Arabic is Furqan. In English it means the criterion to judge between right and wrong. The Quran is also called Al-Mubin, to make things clear. The Quran is also called Al-Huda, the guidance, to guide mankind to the straight path. And Nur. Nur means light. The Quran guides us from darkness into light. The Quran is also called Al-Burhan. And Burhan means what? It's an argument. The Quran on the Day of Judgment will be either an argument for us or against us. If we if we learn the Quran and follow its teachings, it will be an argument for us. The other question is the difference between the Meccan and the Medinan surahs. So I think we did this already, but so it's very simple. Whatever revelation came before the migration of the Prophet from Mecca to Medina, before that migration, all those surah, they are called the Meccan surah. After the migration, whatever revelation came to the Prophet is called Medinan surah. But guess what? The Prophet left Medina and he went back to Mecca, and when he received the revelation in Mecca, it was considered a Medinan surah. Why? Because it was after the Hijrah. So make sure you remember that one. Also, there are 86 Meccan surah and 28 Medinan surahs. The other questions, the characteristics of the Meccan and the Medinan surahs. What are the difference? The Meccan surahs are mostly short, and they spoke mostly about the oneness of Allah, about the reward of doing good, about heaven and hell, about the hereafter. And the Medinan surah talk more about laws that govern society, laws that governed people's lives, because in those days, before the Quran, the laws that govern society were not clearly defined. So the Medinan surah spoke most about treaty, about laws that govern society, marriage, divorce, inheritance. So like that's the difference, right? The other question is, which surah is the first complete revealed surah? So, and that is Surah Fatiha. But I don't want the class to get mixed up. we all know that the first verses that were revealed, the 5 verses, was Surah 96. Iqra bismi rabbikal a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Iqra bismi rabbikal ladhi khalaqal insana min 'alaq. Iqra wa rabbukal akram alladhi 'allama bil qalam. 'Allama al insana ma lam ya'lam. You know that verse, that is in Surah 96. Right? So, but that was the first revealed verses, but it's not a complete surah. The first completed surah was Surah Fatiha, right? Complete. So I don't want the class to get mixed up. The other question, which is the longest surah? And we all know it is Surah Al-Baqarah is the longest surah. And how many surahs are there in the glorious Quran? 114 surahs, or we can say 114 chapters. The other question here we have is that what are some of the causes of the Quranic revelation? Now, as we know, the Quran took a period of 23 years to be revealed. And during that process, the Quran, it is called Shazaman Nuzul, the causes of the revelation. And one of the major causes of revelation is information. Information about whom? Information about the past. Information about the past prophets, Adam, Noah, Moses, Ibrahim, Isa, alayhi salam. So prophets of the past and their experience and the people that they were sent to. And in some cases, like in cases of Nuh alayhi salam, Prophet Noah, the people disbelieved in him and Allah destroyed them by the flood. You see, the people of Lut, they were involved in evil and Allah destroyed them with stones. You see, the people of Ad and Thamud. So the Quran also bring information about previous generations, those that disbelieve in Allah, how they were destroyed. The people of Ad, they were tall and huge, and the people of Thamud, they were all destroyed. Why? Because they disbelieve in the oneness of God, the oneness of Allah. So also, the Quran was revealed to bring laws. Laws, religious laws. How to pray, our prayer, our salah, how to make our hajj, how to give our zakah, the laws of fasting in Ramadan, what breaks the fast and how to fast, the laws of haram and halal, the laws of what is lawful and unlawful in religion and in everyday life. And the Quran also brought laws. Was one of the causes of the revelation is the Quran brought laws to govern society. And I keep saying this word that during those days prior to the revelation of the Quran, the rules and laws that govern society were not clearly defined. There were no police stations. There were no there were no structured laws. So they have economical laws, laws against interest, lending money and charge high interest, laws about giving charity to create a socio-economical balance in society, to give zakat, laws of inheritance. What is inheritance? Someone dies, who will get the children, what amount the wife will get, what amount the children will get, and so on and so forth. Also laws of marriage and divorce. And also, because remember, Islam is a complete way of life. Also, the laws, whatever issue occurred at that time, Quran was revealed to settle dispute and answer questions and solve problems that arose among the people. Someone may have borrowed money from someone and they don't want to pay back, or someone may exploit someone, and the Quran judge with justice and equality. Very important, we got to know this. Also, the Quran came to answer questions that people asked. People ask all kind of questions, weird questions sometimes. And some people ask questions out of sincerity. Some people ask, well, who is Allah? Why you worship Allah? Why you believe in Him? And then Allah revealed to the Prophet, Kul, say, answer them, that God is one, Allah is one and only. He is absolute, He is eternal. He begets not, neither was He begotten, and nothing alike unto Him. Nothing resembles Him. Some people ask questions about why can't Allah send down a book from the sky? Why can't the heaven open up? And they ask weird questions. Why can't gold come down and garden? They ask all kind of weird questions. And then Allah told the Prophet, if I am to give these people some of what they ask for, and if they disbelieve, I'm going to destroy them. And the Prophet chose not for Allah to bring some of those miracles to them. Although in the Quran, Allah mentioned about the Prophet splitting the moon. Yes. They saw that, but yet they didn't believe. And we all know the Zamzam well is there. That's a miracle, a well in the middle of the desert. And in fact, human beings, we are the best of God's creation, and we are the best miracle that Allah has performed, that God has performed. We are human beings. We can think, we can talk, we can, we have the faculties so much. We are so intelligent. Mankind has made so much, exploration and so much invention. But who created mankind? So the the causes of revelation, these are all, and there are many more causes why the Quran was revealed. Because remember, the Quran took a period of 23 years to be revealed. Now, naming of the surah. I just want to remind the class that naming of the surah, that the Prophet named some of the surahs, and then the companions name some of the chapters. Right? The other question, why Jibreel alayhi salam, why the angel came 2 times before the Prophet died to rehearse the Quran. So, as we know that every year Jibreel alayhi salam, the angel that brought the revelation to the Prophet, every year he will come and he will rehearse the Quran with the Prophet. But the year before the Prophet died, he came 2 times. Why? Simple, the answer is because to revise it with the Prophet, because the Quran was committed to memory by the Prophet and by many of his companions. And as I mentioned to you that we already talked about the first compilation and the second compilation. We already discussed that when the Prophet received the Quranic revelation, he memorized it and then he elected certain people to write it down. And they wrote it down on barks of trees, shoulder blades of animals, leather, whatever they had, they write it down. And we mentioned that. And then we also mentioned about when the Prophet died, and in the time of the Abu Bakr, the leader, the caliph at that time, 70 Hufaz died in a battle. And Umar, may Allah be pleased with all of them, gave Abu Bakr the idea to compile the Quran in the form of a book. And then after it was compiled in the form of a book, then during the caliphate or the leadership of another companion, Uthman, then Uthman he compiled it more. He compiled the second compilation and he made more copies. We talk about that. If there's any questions that I didn't answer, the class can always get back to me if you have any question. The other question here is that which was the last revealed verses? So remember, the first revealed verses was Iqra, which is chapter 96, the first 5 verses. But now the question here that is posed to me here is that which is the last? And most scholars, they agree that Surah Ma'idah, chapter 5, verse 3, that was the last, when Allah revealed to the Prophet, this day I have perfected for you your religion, and have completed my favors and blessing upon you, and have approved and chosen Islam as your way of life, Islam as your deen. And lastly, class, we went in detail about what the Quran said about itself, and we discussed about that the Quran is a cure, is a mercy, is a healing, is a glad tidings. And the Quran put forth many challenges that if you, and one that come to my mind is that when Allah mentioned in Surah Baqarah that if you are in doubt to what Allah has revealed to his servant from time to time, well then if they are in doubt, let them produce a surah like unto the Quran, and let them call their witnesses to testify that they have done it. But they cannot, and of a surety they can never do it. So let them fear the fire of hell, whose fuel is men and stone. Also in Surah Nisa, it is mentioned that if this Quran was other from Allah than Allah, you would have find many descriptions inside of it. And also it is mentioned too that in Surah Isra, that if the mankind and the jinn kind and all, if they come together to produce something like the Quran, they can never produce something like of the Quran. So class, this brings us to the end of our session on the Quran, and inshallah, if there is any concern, if there are any questions, you can always get back to me so I can able to answer you. And if inshallah, if I cannot, well then I will research it and get back to you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuhu.